Hey guys, this is OddOneGaming. This is going to be another Raid Shadow Legends video. So as I've already started doing one of these lists, today is the time to do the list of, like, from my point of view at least, the top 10 mischief targets for Hydra. So we all know that Hydra is a little bit complex, it's a little bit of a hard content to tackle, but because of the rewards that start becoming better and better over here, you know, especially the fact that, let's say maybe the gear is, you don't care that much about it, but you know, the clan gold's pretty good, clan XP, also the fragments for Mithral are really important if you don't already have her. But Raid also added recently the Mortal Soulstones. Even though on higher level it's kind of sad that, you know, it's not a lot more than we would like, or that, I don't know, maybe people expected, it's still good because at least, you know, if you want to try and progress in this content as well, then you're trying to prepare for it as much as you can. Especially when we're talking about normal and hard Hydra, usually you're trying to prepare for the first 4 starting heads. On the lower difficulties, the heads usually have a high chance to pop the same ones. So if you have the Head of Mischief in the starting rotation, which we have for example in this one, you try to prepare and get ready for the sake of that one, and you know, it makes it a little bit easier to hit, if you can, the top chest over there. So let's just jump in, because, like, you know, when it comes to the other difficulties for Brutal Nightmare, usually what I suggest to people and what I do personally is I try to prepare for all 6 heads, you know, because there's a high chance that another head will pop out, so you know, it can be a little bit more difficult. So the Head of Mischief is the one that actually attacks your champion that has the most buffs on the team, and basically it steals that buffs on the A1, and then with the A2 it spreads those buffs. The annoying part about that is not only does the Head of Mischief steal your buffs, but it also steals the turn meter, which makes it really hard and really annoying because of the fact that the more turn meter the Hydra head steals, the faster it goes, and guess what? The faster it goes, the faster that Hydra mark goes down, and you get eaten more and more often, and you're trying to avoid that. So let's jump in and let me tell you from my point of view, like, which are the top 10. I'm not necessarily gonna talk about them which are like the best in like the specific order. I'm gonna start with the one which I think is just like number 1, and then we're gonna go through the rest one. But number 1, which I think most of us already know, is Krisk. Krisk the Aegis seems to be the MVP for like most content that's PvE specifically in the game. The reason why he's so good is obviously he has the AoE decrease speed on the A1. He has the AoE increase speed on the A3, which does it, you know, it's increased speed on everybody but himself. On himself he does the increased defense. At the same time he has a provoke on this one. On his passive is the decreased attack and decreased defense. If he gets attacked, the shield part does not really matter that much, because after 2 turns that one disappears. But what makes Krisk a good mischief target is his A2, that attacks all enemies and places an ally protection on everybody except himself, but he places 2 continuous heals on himself. So that basically makes it a little bit easier for you to make him to be the mischief target. To try and make sure that he's actually the mischief target, you can also put a blood shield accessory, ring, amulet, or banner, whatever you have that's good for the sake of this one on him. And unless you have somebody like I don't know, Duchess, or somebody like another champion that does shields, he can be the mischief target for like, I don't know, 90% of the time. You can have sometimes where it can be RNG and somebody else might be it, but you can tackle that with some different ways. So that's why he's really good. And obviously, for those of you that do not know, the way to tackle the mischief target is to prepare with high resistance. So for example, for the sake of Nightmare Hydra, you need 500 resist. For Brutal you need 450, for Hard 400 resist, and so on, like when it gets to normal. But if you want to find about those the right stats that you need when it comes to like accuracy, speed, and resist, just go on HYDRA's website, go to the stages tool, and you can find there all the details that you want. So Krisk is definitely number 1 for the sake of mischief targeting. Now let's jump to number 2 in my opinion. You know what, let's just stay here in this faction. Number 2 in my opinion is Scholar Vargal. Scholar Vargal basically does the same thing, like similarly with Krisk, in the sense of he brings some extra utility. So I'm gonna have the ones that bring some extra utility as like in the top 5 ones, and then other ones that specifically only do that. So for example, Scholar Vargal is all about his A2. He does a provoke on a 2-turn cooldown, because after you book it, so it's 100% to provoke one single champion, which would be one single target, which would be the Head of DK, the cleanser one, which you don't want to cleanse. And then at the same time he places a strengthen on himself. So the same thing with him as with Chris, for example. You're gonna try to put lasting gifts to have this on more, you know, for as long as possible. So this is the one that makes him be the mischief target and also be provoker at the same time. Bear in mind, if you pair him with somebody like Lydia, he's not going to be the mischief target specifically because of the fact that Lydia also brings strengthen. So if he's the only one that does strengthen in the team, he can do that easily. And again, same with Chris, try to put a blood chill ring on himself and you're gonna be good with that. At the same time, he brings an AoE decrease attack and, you know, lots of hits on the A1, plus the passives honestly don't really work for the sake of Hydra. But it's all about his A2 and A3. AoE decrease attack can help you for the sake of survivability. Then another champion that does something similar to that is, when we go to the skinwalkers, is Coronar. Well, Coronar does the same thing on his A2, though for him, for example, it's a little bit like on a higher turn, on a higher cooldown, the provoke when it comes to provoking, but we're talking about mischief targeting specifically. And basically what he does, he provokes all the enemies, which obviously can work only on DK, on the 3-turn cooldown, but at the same time he places a block debuffs and increase defense on himself. So unless you pair him with champions that do increase defense and block debuffs again in your team, then he can easily be the mischief target most of the time. Maybe bring somebody that does AoE increase defense, but you don't bring a block debuffs. If you do that, he can still have this one, same thing. Give him a blood shield accessory and he's gonna have that extra buff. At the same time, he also brings the AoE decrease attack, and if the decrease attack is already out there, he places an AoE decrease defense. So you can pair him, for example, like somebody that I like to pair him with was somebody like an Ursala, if you don't have all the other top tier champions. Ursala brings AoE increase defense and strengthen, and she brings decrease attack on her A2. So if you do decrease attack with her, you can put the decrease defense with him, but you're kind of gonna have, you know, backups for that. At the same time, having an AoE A1, he cannot reduce the turn meter, but if you put him in a taunting set, as an example, if you have good enough taunting set with high resist, he can, whenever he counterattacks, specifically when you're attacking heads with AoEs, he can keep counterattacking because his passive says he will always counterattack when hit by enemies under decreased attack, decreased defense, or decreased speed, which is, you know, you're gonna definitely have at least one of the three, if not all three, of those debuffs on the Hydra heads. And that's honestly, if you have good RNG, maybe he could only keep the provoke up on his own with the with the taunting set. But you know, mostly we're talking, like I said, mischief targeting. So he brings two buffs on this one, which can make him be mischief target pretty easy. Same principle, give him lasting gifts for a chance to try and extend these ones. Then let's jump to another one that kind of does something similar. Same thing, you know, brings provoke and brings mischief targeting, and that's one of the recent fusions, Bifold of the Storm. With Bifold, it's all about his A2. A2 does the same thing, double AoE that places provoke, which again only on DK, and also places leech. So he brings that extra utility of having leech. So if you don't have enough healing in the team, having that leech in there, if you have War Master on your champions, or if they hit hard enough, they should provide the healing to themselves pretty easily. At the same time, he also brings some shields, he also brings some other heals on the A3, and he also has a good provoke on the A1. The nice thing about Bifold is, on the A1 and A2, he can place his debuffs even on the weak hits, so he could be amazing for mischief targeting and provoker at the same time. Also, he will receive less damage from targets that are under provoke, so that usually only counts if like the head of DK attacks him, and it's provoke, he's gonna receive a little bit less damage. At the same time, he brings a good aura in all battles by 28%. Now that we finished with champions that, you know, kinda, because it seems like it's a fun thing. It seems that like most champions that are good to be provokers for DK are also good to be mischief targets, and you know, covering several roles with one champion is the key to having the easiest team for Hydra. Next one that I'm gonna jump to is like we're gonna keep going with the legendaries, is one of the champions that has skyrocketed ever since the Hydra came out, and now with the Iron Twins as well, and that's Lord Champfort. Lord Champfort is all about his passive. So his passive, basically what it does is every time he gets attacked, he places a decreased speed, which is amazing for the sake of Hydra, but at the end of his turn, he always places a shield buff on himself. So again, just like with I don't know, everybody, all the other champions that rely on the shield, he's a little bit tricky because it's only about the shield. So if you bring somebody else that does an AoE shield, or if you bring somebody like a Duchess that places a shield on the A1, then it can be a little bit difficult to make a mischief target. However, if you're not bringing any shields in the team, the Lord Champion can be a good mischief target because he will have that shield always, and that could be the extra buff that he also has, you know, he always has on himself, because it's on a 1 turn cooldown after it's booked. So basically every time he gets a turn, he's gonna have that shield on. At the same time, he brings a decreased defense on the A1, but on the A2 is again really good, is on a 3 turn cooldown, A with decreased accuracy and decreased attack. Again, decreased attack is really good for the sake of, you know, damage mitigation against the Hydra heads, but also the decreased accuracy can help you when you're building your champions to maybe not have the resistance to resist the Head of Mischief, but you want them to resist the poisons from the Head of Blight, the heal reduction from the Head of Decay, the provokes from the Head of Wrath or Suffering. So if you build everybody else with around, I don't know, 200 to 300 resist, plus the decreased accuracy, then you're kind of guaranteed you're not going to get debuffed by the other heads, maybe even Mischief. Like if you have 300 resist on everyone and have decreased accuracy out, it's going to be most of the time everybody's going to resist, even the Head of Mischief. Unfortunately, his aura is only for dungeons, but still, he's a pretty good champion. He has really good base stats, especially HP and defense. So he's another one of the good ones. Now let's go a little bit to another one that kind of has something similar, but it's a little bit more tricky because of her passive. However, she can be a slight good mischief target, but not guaranteed. But her overall kit brings some amazing utility, and that's Tuhanara. So Tuhanara can bring mischief targeting on herself because of the A1. So the A1 brings decreased speed on a single target, which again, kind of insane for the sake of Hydra. Then she places a continuous heal on herself. The only thing is, she also places a continuous heal on the ally with the lowest HP. So this one can be a bit tricky because it can go random. However, for the sake of herself, if you build her with high resist and high accuracy, she could be herself a good mischief target. Maybe again, just like with the other ones, give her a blood shield accessory as well, and maybe she could, you know, maybe she could have a little bit of a shield on herself, and she could do that. At the same time, she brings decreased attack and block buffs on a single target. Then if you select this on a target that has no debuffs, she can spread it on everybody, because this is what this one does. Like, it takes 2 random debuffs and spreads them on all the other heads. So basically, you would like to do this A2 on one head that has no debuffs, or maybe just one of these two already on them, and then you're guaranteed to have A with decreased attack and block buffs. But it's a little bit tricky, like I said. At the same time, she brings increased defense and increased speed on her A3 on a 3 turn cooldown, which again are really good buffs for the sake of Hydra. Also, guess what? She also brings utility for the Head of Torment, which is the one that puts through fear. Every time she gets a turn, she removes 1 random debuff on each of the allies, and she can remove 2 if like the allies have continuous heals. So, you know, she's really good. At the same time, bringing an ally accuracy aura in all battles, which is obviously Hydra as well. So she's an amazing champion for the sake of Hydra. You just want to make sure you pair them with the right other champions, and then she can be mischief target for you as well. Now let's try and drop it a little bit lower. Let's try and go on the lower side, and let's try to talk about some epics that do this. Like, you know, if you think that I'm missing somebody on this list that, you know, can be good for mischief target and bring some other utility in Hydra that, I don't know, maybe I'm not mentioning, please just leave it in the comments below, so, you know, other people can see it and this can be helpful for them. Let's jump again into the Lizardman now for the sake of epics, and let's talk about somebody that I feel like maybe is underrated. I judged him really bad, but again, has seen value surge because of Hydra, and that's Jizzle. So Jizzle can be really interesting, and at the same time, he can be really sad. Like, if you play early game, mid game, you're like, oh, this guy is useless. I've had him personally on my account, and then luckily I pulled another one, and now I'm using him in my brutal key. And basically the skill that makes him a good mischief target, or helps him place the mischief target on somebody that you want, is his A2. Places a shield buff for 3 turns and a counterattack buff for 2 turns on one ally, which he can place on himself or another ally, then grants an extra turn. So this one's on a 5 turn cooldown, but because of the extra turn, basically goes down to a 4 turn cooldown. So if you have the, again, lasting gifts, you can extend the shield, you can extend the counterattack, so he can keep this on most of the time. This can be really amazing. And guess what? At the same time, he brings on the A3, a provoke, and an extra buff on himself. And the provoke is for 2 turns on a 4 turn cooldown. So if you always start with the A3 with the provoke and then go to the A2, you can kind of keep again the mischief, kind of like Krisk. You can keep the target from mischief, you know, to be on him most of the time. It works for me. It's pretty amazing. And then the fun thing is, after the Head of Mischief disappears from the rotation, you can use this to place it on somebody that does AoE A1. So for example, if you have your Neck Mothars, if you have your Mother Sibyls, if you have your Geomancers, he can do this one pretty awesome and there, and the damage ramps up pretty high, and it's really fun. On the A1 he does nothing too special. It's all about his A3 and A2. He also has decent enough survivability stats, you know, almost 1400 HP, defense. HP is a bit on the lower side, but he has good enough defense. Another epic that can be a really good mischief target that also brings some extra utility is from the Shadowkin, and that's Oboro. So Oboro, it's all about her A3. Places increased crit rate, increased crit damage buff on herself, then attacks one enemy. Also places a perfect veil on this champion if this attack crits. So just make her with 100% crit rate, and she's gonna place 3 buffs on herself for 2 turns. Like the perfect veil, the increased crit and crit damage are all on 2 turns. If you book it, goes down to a 3-turn cooldown. And again, if you put lasting gifts, she can extend this one. The really awesome thing with her as well is whenever the revive on death is placed on her by either herself or somebody else, she'll put a revive on death buff on herself as well for 3 turns. That's an extra buff. So it makes her to be really easy for the sake of mischief targeting. But guess what? At the same time, she brings 2 more awesome things. On the A2, if she has Veil or Perfect Veil, she can steal all the buffs on a target, which is really awesome, again on a 3-turn cooldown. And then her A1 with the right champions alongside, she can become as an AoE A1 hitter. So if there's 4 debuffs on the target that she attacks, then her attack is AoE, and she can bring decreased defense on a 50% chance, which is, you know, it's pretty respectable. So again, Oboro is one of the really good mischief targets. Then another one, which is from the same faction, I haven't tested personally, but I've seen some videos on her, and she seems pretty good for that job. That's Wuji, because she can also do some crazy damage. For Wuji, it's all about her A3, places Perfect Veil and counterattack on this champion for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Again, with lasting gifts, plus, I don't know, maybe give her a Blood Shield accessory. Same thing you can do for Oboro Blood Shield accessories. You can keep that all of the time, and this one goes down to a 3-turn cooldown. At the same time, this one is really amazing because paired with her A1, which says will target all enemies instead of 1 when counter-attacking with this skill. So obviously if she has this, whenever she's attacked, she counter-attacks with the A1, which then brings her a chance of 50% when booked of placing a weaken debuff. Weaken debuff is really good to do extra damage. At the same time, on her A2, she has an AoE. Unfortunately, this one's not 100%, and it's on a 4-turn cooldown, so pretty high. But if you're gonna want to build her with accuracy to land the weaken, then you're gonna give her accuracy to land this A2, which basically has a 60-75% chance, if you give sniper 80% chance, to place block buffs on all enemies. So this can be another good skill for the sake of HYDRA. So her kit is honestly straight up HYDRA from my point of view. Then another one, the last one is something a little bit like, I guess it's like overall coverage, and the last way you can do with the Head of Mischief, which is not specifically being a mischief target, and I wanted to include this in the, you know, in my top 10, because it doesn't say just one champion, but that's using block buffs. That's another way to deal with the Head of Mischief, because if you have block buffs on the Head of Mischief, even though your buffs are stolen, if you have block buffs, the Mischief does not put the buffs on himself, because obviously there's gonna be block buffs. So one of the best ways to deal with it is, like, for example, the way that I'm using it is have somebody like, I don't know, Ugo, which is like top tier for HYDRA, that brings decreased defense and block buffs on a 2-turn cooldown. You can also use somebody with an extend. So for example, if you have a Soulless, he does extend of debuffs on his A3. Or if you bring somebody like a Silesia, which does debuff extension, that can be really good. Why am I going in the orcs? Night Revenant. So if you pair, for example, Ugo with a Silesia does a debuff extension on her A2, and she does a decreased defense on her A3 as well. So it's like, you know, kind of like a backup decreased defense, debuff extension, and then, you know, debuff spread on her A1 if the targets have Hex, which again, she can place Hex herself if she hits targets that have decreased defense. So these are the best champions and the best ways to deal with the Head of Mischief, which is, in my opinion, the second most annoying head of HYDRA after the Head of DK that cleanses them and boosts the turn meter. So, like I mentioned, guys, if you feel that I left somebody out from this list that you feel is is better than people expect and can be really useful and brings extra utility for the sake of Hydra, please do leave it in the comments below, and I'm definitely gonna check them out, and I'm gonna like them, and hopefully more and more people see that, because you know what, at the end of the day, I'm trying to give more and more ideas and try to help out as many people out there to beat the Hydra as I can. But this is gonna be for the video today, guys. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy my content, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Peace, love, take care everyone. Bye guys.